Good afternoon, morning, evening, no matter where you are, the chicken box is here. I'm Kevin Impeccable Peck. If you never tuned in and we just popped up and you wondering what's going on, this is the Afro American newspaper, the oldest family owned business in Maryland, 130 years, and the third oldest family owned black business in the country. Wow, if that's not amazing, I don't know what amazing is. But thank you for tuning in today. Dr. Draper, my co-host, how are you this morning?
I am
Afternoon.
well. I'm well this morning, afternoon, evening. Hello, everyone, especially all of you who are watching by way of Facebook. And I am representing the boomers, but I call myself a millennial boomer because I really can identify with some of the things that the millennials, take credit for, especially on the tech side. So try to keep up with that. Good
Where
to
my
see
where
everybody.
my Gen X's out there? Put them up if you're out there. Anyway, you know we represent Gen X. We stand on the X and we stand strong on the X. All right, Misha Green, my millennial friend. How are you?
Oh, I am doing well. I was having some technical difficulties, but I'm back. I'm glad that I can be on the box. And I think of course, now I'm frozen again. Can you all hear me though? Can
We
you all
can hear
We
hear
can
me?
you.
hear you clearly.
Okay, good. So anyway, I'm done talking about this. It decided to freeze. But anyway, I'm happy to be on the box, and as am the millennial friend representing for the millennials. But like Dr. Draper, I actually really connect with a lot of boomer culture. So I like to say that I am a boomer millennial.
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I don't know if you've ever been in the Baltimore area before, but we have something called the famous chicken box. That's four wings fries. It's a little greasy. You put salt, pepper, ketchup on it. It's a nice little snack, lunch, or dinner. A lot of people can have a chicken box anytime. But here on the show is where you get a chance to speak your truth. This is where we dispel myths about the black community. We break stereotypes and we talk about things that aren't being talked about. And we bring different guests and we have our own perspective and we share in your perspectives as you put in the chat if you're joining us. Please, we appreciate everything that and all the comments that you put in the chat, but will you help us speak our truth? So standing on the box, when we say get on the box, that means that you are, you sometimes you just got something you have to say. And so step up on the box and say it. It may not be the truth, but it may be your truth. So we say, don't be a chicken, get on the box. This is Black People versus MLK. Everybody has been used to getting a vacation day off if you work for someone else. Sometimes if you work for yourself, I don't know if you take the MLK or even if you have paused to think about it, or have you become numb to what all that has gone on and you've been so used to them saying about Martin Luther King that you just have become numb to it and you have ignored it. So in case you have, we're going to bring it back to your memory today. Dr. Draper, we're celebrating and we have a special guest who is with us that we want to bring into the conversation so that he can share on the box as we get into Black People versus MLK. Where are you with it? Are you sharing it with your children? Are you thinking about it? Have you paused? Did you take time off just to reflect on where we've come and how much further we have to go? Dr. Draper?
I am so excited about this conversation today, and our special guest is Mr. Willie Flowers. Many of us in the Maryland area know him. He is the president of the NAACP Maryland State Conference, an experienced leader in the areas of community development, public affairs, marketing, and Willie Flowers is known as an advocate for justice. He has a passion for human development and networking to leverage resources to grow the human condition at all levels. He's had, oh my goodness, such a storied career. Columbia Books, Walter Washington Convention Center, 21st Century Group, LifeBridge Health, Health rather, and each position he's built on every place that he has been, and he's left it better than he found it. And so he advocates and advances social justice and civil rights. He even founded a food justice program, Kevin and Misha, called Urban Oasis in the Park Heights community, and he serves as, not only is he the president of the NAACP Maryland State Conference, he's also the president of the NAACP Howard County branch. And so, in that capacity, he advocates for the advancement of technology as a key social determinant of health. And he's working to build a technology infrastructure that will allow access and opportunity for everybody. And all those things, he still finds time to be on the boards of the Living Legacy Foundation, Pimlico Community Development Authority, Dance, Why Ellicott City, and probably things that we don't yet know about. But we want to just welcome Willie Flowers. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Chicken Box.
Yeah, good noon, good afternoon. I'm very excited to hear it. I mean, I'm first of all, I want to just say that the way you have this structured by generation it just blows me away because it seems like it's few generations but one spirit, and it's very powerful. So I'm glad to be up in the box, on the box, and all that. So thank you. This sounds like a wonderful concept. I applaud you for your work, and it's amazing. It's truly amazing.
I
I
love it
love
when
Up in the Box.
I love it when the president comes on and just says we all up in the box. You know what I mean? So that's the difference, y'all. We can communicate, from jail to jail, but we also have a tone that makes us comfortable around each other, whether we're in the group setting or whether we're streaming live. So welcome. This is Black People versus MLK. Let's get right into it. Why don't you just, Willie, why don't you just let everybody know the great things that you're doing here in Maryland before we get started? And I enjoyed talking to you backstage, my friend.
Well, I work with the NAACP. It's a passion. It's a avocation. It's not exactly a vocation, but in that light, it's interesting that I live in Howard County. A few people know that I started my career in D.C., moved to Baltimore, and then moved back to DC. But we moved here, hoping that we would have good schools, and that's another story. But when I was in Baltimore, I had I got caught up in one of these situations where I was illegally arrested by the police, and that's why we left. So that story starts there. It actually triggered a lot of bitterness and anger that I had, because the irony of that is that I'm from Alabama, and you would expect that type of nonsense to happen there. It never happened to me in Alabama. I was literally arrested in central booking. But I tried the case. We sued the city. And at the time, there was a law that I couldn't even talk about that. But we sued them, won. And when I got the opportunity to be the president of the NAACP in Howard County, I had to alter my emotions about the law enforcement, because I was very angry, bitter, all that. And but I shifted my experience with that and literally work with the police, still work with them. So in the 5 years that I've been in this position as branch president of Howard County, we've done some substantial things over the years. We have a case right now of a young man who was hit in the head and was recorded by not the police, school security, SRO, school resource officer, which is a uniformed police officer, but by the school security officer. And we're on top of that case because it was a case that the state's attorney in Howard County did not charge the security officer, but they charged the child, the student. And so that's a big problem. That's one thing that we're working on. Another thing that we're working on is the Sheraton, or formerly the Sheraton Hotel, which is now the Meriwether Lake House Marriott, took advantage of a loophole in the law that allowed the owner to shut down the hotel during the quarantine or pandemic, laid everybody off. He rebuilt the hotel, remodeled the hotel, and when it was time to bring everybody back, he didn't hire anybody. So we're working on a recall law. I just testified on that last night. It's a big deal because he's taking away jobs and all this stuff from people, and it's very insulting. But that's one thing that we're working on in Howard County. Now, as a state conference president, there's a lot of stuff going on around the state, and I try to let branches take care of their own local business. But this issue of the attack on Marilyn Mosby and Baltimore City was something that that needed some attention. So I would ordinarily not get involved with it, but it's such a high profile issue, and it follows this history of attacks on Black leaders. And quite frankly, I just could not sit to the side and let that happen without contributing in some way. And regardless of what the outcomes are with the case, her defense is explaining that she's innocent. It is the case that there's only been a few in the last 40 years, but there's only been two African American women. Both those women have been under attack by whoever. It was when Patricia Jessamy was in office, she was under attack from the time she got in there by Martin O'Malley, who was the mayor at the time, who became the governor. And then when he became the governor, as you know, he incentivized the position and attracted this guy Bernstein to fill the position because he raised the salaries so high. But she was under attack the entire time she was there, just because she didn't operate the office the way he wanted her to operate it. So this thing with Marilyn Mosby is consistent with that. Like I said, it's going to be a long haul, but it's right to support her and her family. I have it's very emotional for me because I know the challenges of trying to, do stuff when you could be out making money. Her and her husband both could be in the private sector making money. They chose to work in public sector, and that comes with some sacrifices. And they have sacrifices it, and because she's under attack and have this investigation, their legal fees have mounted, and it changes things. They got children, and again, they could be doing anything else, but they're taking these hits for the city of Baltimore.
You are exactly right, Willie, in terms of the attacks on Black women leaders, and it's calculated. It's happened over and over again, and the things that are put out there happen all the time. And I'm not saying it's true or not true, but just the viciousness of the attack. And we could talk a little bit about, yes, what happened with Pat Jessamy, and also Maryland's, going after the folk,
Right.
Freddie Gray.
Right. Exactly.
It started right there. So thank you for the work that you're doing, around that, to really lift that up.
Right. And let me also add that if you remember when how it was in the 90s, that it was popular to be tough on crime, lock them up, and all that. And in the case with State's Attorney Jessamy, she's a Black female. I mean, at some point, how much fun can it be locking up a bunch of Black men? So if you pivot to something softer, to not just go after people, but give them the opportunity of some diversion to treatment or whatever the case, and every case is different. But if you have this spirit that was in the 90s, and you can get elected by just saying you're going to lock everybody up, lock them up, make them pay child support, lock them up if they don't pay child. All that stuff was very popular. And I think people forget that. And so when she didn't do all that, then that, cost her and it's very well documented. So I'm not, saying anything out of turn. It was well documented, and the relationship with her and Martin O'Malley was never good. And he put in place a way to get her out of there. And there are other details about the election that was consistent with reducing the turnout. And that's the other thing about this. This attack allows for the community to question the integrity of the state's attorney, question her ability. I mean, the attack was started off as bullying, then it went to a criticism of their business, and then it went to the ballot. And now we're back at the ballot. And with that, it causes, this consistent feeling in Baltimore communities of just being so depressed that you don't want to go out to vote. You know what I'm saying? So she's got to run that. She got to try this case, be attacked in the public, run an office, and then try to figure out a way to campaign. So that reduces, like I said, enthusiasm about voting for anybody. It'd be hard for you to be inspired to go vote for anybody with all that going on, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Welcome back, y'all. If you just tuned in, this is Black People versus MLK. We have our special guest, President of the Maryland NAACP, Brother Willie Flowers. Is it Dr. Counsel? I heard you say you tried something, so that made me feel like you were attorney as well.
No, I'm just an all around good guy.
All right. Hey,
Trying
and I
to
love your spirit. I love the spirit that you bring to it as we just have celebrated and commemorated MLK and his birthday on the 15th, born on a Tuesday, father of three, uh, middle child himself. Anyway, it's a human part of everybody. And I like how you bring the human side that people forget. And people forget online a lot of times as we tear down each other, Black people,
right.
on social media, that you forget that these are people. They have families. They're your brother. They're your sister. They're your wife. They're your husband. Nobody's perfect, right? Nobody. I'm not indicting anybody, but I'm saying we indict each other online on a regular basis. But that's another show. I'm glad that we've gotten a chance to speak about the current issue in this region, which Marilyn Mosby made history across the globe as she went to fight for justice for Brother Gray. And they don't like when you shake them up, okay? When you don't fit along and play along with the program, and you work for the community, they'll immediately trying to shut you down. Matter of fact, we on somebody else's platform now, and if you say something wrong too much, they might try to make this stream. But guess what? That's why we have to own our own things. That's why we have to come together. And I'm glad that we are here. Now, the chicken box, you speak the truth. Okay, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take 30 seconds right now, because we can all get in our anyway, get your NAACP membership, y'all, if you haven't gotten it. You say what it don't make it seem like it's something that was for back then, because you can clearly see that it's for now. It is for now. It is organizations like that who always will pick up the slack and step in the gap and help push what we need to be pushed forward, and help advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves. That's my commercial for the NAACP. I remember having a little pen. I remember my grandmother made sure that I was a part and a member when I didn't even know what a member meant. But that's what we have to do. Okay, so let's get on the box about MLK. 30 seconds. Starting with you, Misha Green, and my millennial friend. Talk to me about MLK, Black people versus MLK. What do you think's going on now?
So, first of all, I want to uplift Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his legacy, and the life that he lived, which was so brave and really before his time in so many ways, not just because he was a leader and brave enough to speak out on the injustices of the day, but also, I mean, to think about how young he was and all that he did in his short time, and that we're still celebrating him today, what have been his 93rd years. So I want to first start by saying that. And I also want to thank President Flowers for being on the show today. We really appreciate it. And everything you've said thus far, I have just so resonated with, and I appreciate your candor and transparency. That's why we have the chicken box, to have these leaders have a place where they can feel comfortable speaking their truths and telling the truths. And so what I'll say about MLK is that he was somebody who really ensured that others took the mantle of fighting for justice as well. My last interview with Congressman John Lewis was just about that, and how he knew that MLK would have wanted him to really foster the next generation of activists and leaders. And so where we are today, Black people, is at a place where it seems like we've had so much forward progress, but we see that, as Dr. Draper and President Flowers said, we are under attack, and particularly Black women. And so, what I have to say about MLK is that I can't imagine that he'd stand around and be okay with senators and congressmen tweeting his name, and yet those same senators are not allowing uh, a voting rights bill to have its true day and vote, and against voting rights expansion. I just can't think that MLK would be okay with those same people using his name in the way that they are. But I also have to say that I can't imagine MLK would be okay with any of us being silent in a time where so many of our people are under attack. So many of our people still need our voices. I mean, inequities in so many different communities, not just in voting, not just in the economy, not just in health. The laundry list is long. And so I think people like President Flowers who are fighting for us, and I really encourage all of us to do the same. In the name of MLK and all the leaders living and who have passed on before us.
You won the MLK speech. Welcome to the Chicken Box. We're getting on the box. It's Black people versus MLK. Dr. Draper, you're on the box.
Thank you. Thank you. Look, I'm on the box to say this. Listen, we celebrate MLK holiday. We have parades and marches, and people extol him as the greatest thing since sliced bread. But let's not forget that he was once denounced as an extremist. The FBI labeled him as demagogic, they called him the most dangerous man alive at the time. And they requested, and Robert Kennedy, who was the attorney general, see, we forget our history.
That's right.
And so they got permission. They who? J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI to intrude on every aspect of his life. Hello, Marilyn Mosby. They followed him. They wiretapped him. They stood by and watched others threaten him. He was physically attacked at speaking events. Nobody did anything about it. They burned crosses on his lawn while his children and wife were on the inside. They bombed his home. And most Americans said, you know what, that brother is off the deep end someplace, right? They said his goals were wrong, just like Black Lives Matter. And I saw a survey, Willie, that said 30% of African Americans, y'all don't miss this, I'm on the box, even thought that his methods were wrong. So he was criticized, he was monitored, he was demonized, and at times he was even criminalized. So he had a whole lot of haters, right? And so when he made that "I Have a Dream" speech, everybody says, oh, he did the speech and free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. But still they concluded, the FBI, they said he was unfit to serve as a minister of the gospel. And when they learned that he was going to get the Nobel Peace Prize in '64, I'm going to be on the box another 30 seconds.
Take your time now. Take your time, preach.
Insulting, threatening notes. They've got a file that can be opened, I think, in 2027. There was this draft in the FBI files where the FBI wrote, they said, you are a colossal fraud and an evil, vicious one at that. This is what the FBI wrote in their file. The American public will know you for what you are, an evil, abnormal beast, and Satan could do no more. Wait a minute. So let's not forget, as we celebrate him, and we've got the monuments and the memorials and the national holiday that did not come without a struggle, that this brother, every day that he woke up, had to be thinking about what are they going to do next, and how am I going to keep this peaceful, nonviolent movement going. And we know what the end result was. They murdered him in cold blood. And that's here we are 6 decades later, and we got the same stuff going on with the attack against our leaders. And I'm going to give this plug for the NAACP and for the Black Press. Y'all, if the Black Press gets shut down, you know the FBI also has in their files. They accused the Black Press, including members of the Afro, of being communists. That was their famous word. You're just a communist. We're going to try you on being a communist. If they can shut us down, then they take control. What do they want? They want to control the resources. We were free labor. I could go on and on this box, but I'm done. For right now. But I get irritated by how we lift up this holiday and we forget the struggle and we don't connect the dots between what was happening then, what's happening now, and why are we still here and not someplace further, and why the Republicans doing what they're doing. I mean, it's a whole thing. So I'm off the box.
Woo! If you just tuned in, this is Black People versus MLK, and we are on the box right now as we give our MLK moments. Our producer put you up next, Willie, so I'm gonna let you go because I know you probably had some more to say.
I'll just add.
Hold on, put me on the box, producer, please. Put me on the box. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna let Willie go next. But everybody since being in the play, had 5 or 7 years old in the MLK, whatever, all the things that you've done throughout your life, and I thought about it as you were speaking, Dr. Draper, and I just kept hearing "Let Freedom Ring," and I was just thinking of all of the ring and the phones and all of the messages that we have. Are we really free? And the thing about it is he had a choice, and he had something and a vision and a dream that God gave him, and he moved forward and took action. A lot of times they're looking in today's time and say, who are our leaders? And they want to lead by committee, but sometimes leading by committee doesn't work. Sometimes you need somebody who can stir and move and drive everybody in one direction. And where are you? Are you a leader? Are you that leader in your school? Are you that leader in your community? Are you that leader in the public sector? Are you that leader at church? Are you that leader just as an everyday human being, as a husband, as a wife? Do you lead your own family? Do you lead your household? Where are you leading? And have you even considered being a leader? MLK gave us that spark. He expected us to keep it going. And Dr. Draper, I'm going to play back after this what you just said, because if I can just listen to that every day and I can get myself together. So we need to get ourselves together. I'm off the box. President Willie Flowers from the NAACP, who's doing such a fantastic. Don't forget about our organizations. Don't forget about the Black Press. I'm going to give a shameless plug. The Afro is not owned by anybody else but the Afro family for 130 years. We're not controlled. You can't control what we say. You can't control our editorial page. You can't control the issues that we choose to champion. So how do we do it? By your support. And in this day and age, we need you to like something. Even if you don't listen to it all the way, just like it as you're going through and you're scrolling through. Because all of those analytics help us with advertising, and your subscription at afro.com for less than 2 Uber Eats helps us continue this mission. I'm off the box. President Flowers,
all right.
You on the box, my friend.
Thank you. As I told you, I'm from the state of Alabama. And so I thought this was weird when I was little. I just didn't know how to explain it. But I wasn't the superheroes that we know in comics, Marvel or DC Comics, whatever, didn't resonate with me. But what resonated with me were civil rights leaders. And Dr. King was at the center of that. And so I grew up. I mean, one thing I wanted to do, I wanted to name the street in my neighborhood after Dr. King. It's a long story about how that happened, but it happened when I was 19. But it wasn't until I was an adult that I had gone to Montgomery, and I either saw the Capitol or I saw Dexter Church. But it wasn't until I was an adult that I really saw the proximity of Dexter Church to the Capitol, the state capitol of Alabama, and it's only 1 block. And I'm like, as an adult, I was like, whoa, that was something major to pull off. And not only that, if you go to the state capitol of Alabama, there was a statue of Jefferson Davis that looks out over all of this. And so it hit me then that, whoa, this guy had to watch all this go down. And what he saw was, more than anything, the Montgomery bus boycott. And that warms my heart, because this is a small group of people who said, we're going to shut this bus company down for 1 year. and they did it. I mean, Dr. King was at the center of it. And if you ever go back and do the walk and understand the history of Montgomery, Dr. King had just gotten to town. So while we don't take anything away from his leadership, the fact was there was already a structure in place. There was the Afro in place to stabilize organizing that led to that Montgomery bus boycott. That was 1 year, and there was a sister named Thelma Glass who recently passed away, who was at the center of that, and was and I actually met a brother who did his dissertation on Dexter Church and consistent with the bus boycott. And it turns out, guess what, that the people who attended all of the planning meetings were all women. And so he did his whole dissertation on this. It's a book. His name is Houston Roberson. I can't remember the book. I think it's called, I can't remember the book right now. But the point I'm making is it takes a lot of pieces. I do love the legacy of Dr. King. I applaud it. I won't take anything away from it. But the reality is, I think what he inspired and what he was telling everybody was that we have to be our own organizers. We have to be our own organizers, and we have to embrace organizing as a part of anything that we do. And it can't be one dimensional. It's always the case that we're taught to take stuff out of institutions when we go there, and we don't bring anything back, and we don't try to leave them and spread what we learned while we were there. It's like one dimensional. This is that millennial thing and that Gen X thing. We're taught to be, and we ain't taught to be selfish. We just become selfish because the mainstream influences us more than what we're founded in. So that's my box.
Amen.
Good God Almighty. He said, we're not really selfish, but our atmosphere encourages us to be selfish.
To get that check, get that car, to get that house. That's it.
Welcome to the Chicken Box. Black people versus MLK. Have you forgotten? Have you celebrated? Have you shared? Have you just taken even 10 minutes? Even if you can't tell a story good, I was just looking on YouTube and found some great short clips that really helped describe his life. Because some of our young people, they say their attention span is not long, but they'll watch 30-second videos for 3 hours. Anyway, that's a whole nother show. But it's some stereotypes out there about MLK. And, it's been a pandemic still, I guess, going on. It's going to become normal as soon as we get our immune system up. It'll be just like the common cold soon. That's how I'm speaking into existence. And we'll go on with our lives. But the digital streets are always talking. And Misha Green always has her computer or phone or device to the digital streets. So what are the digital streets saying about this topic, Misha?
Yes, the digital streets, are always talking about MLK. MLK is one of those people who's always trending on Twitter once a month for some reason. And I think, again, that's great because MLK's legacy will live on forever. Black Twitter keeps him alive, whether it's funny memes or, actually people using his teachings and leadership in order to inspire us to this day. As always, I must say that these are solely stereotypes and not views of the Afro-American newspapers. And most of these are direct quotes from what I found online. So here we go. Someone wrote, they can't handle the GOP shamelessly quoting Martin Luther King Jr. all day today. This is on MLK Day, while overtly undermining everything he fought for. Kamala Harris wrote, if we are to truly honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy, we must continue to fight for the freedom to vote. At Senator Warnock, Raphael Warnock, said, you cannot remember Martin Luther King and dismember his legacy at the same time. I saw several memes, and when I say several memes of Martin Lawrence as MLK as a teenager, and or a picture of Martin Lawrence, a picture of a person who plays the character of Luther, character of King, and character of Junior, things like that. So the digital streets, of course, still love to poke fun. People love to show MLK living everyday life, such as playing pool. I don't know if this is a true picture. I know he's actually giving the peace sign, like saying goodbye, but there's a tons again of memes circulating of him like giving people the middle finger. So again, these are just people doing sort of finding ways to make a joke of MLK and his legacy. um People are showing Trump sent several statements yesterday, and not once did he mention Martin Luther King Jr. Again, this was on Tuesday, but this is someone's quote. Excuse me, yeah, on Tuesday, but about Monday. Someone wrote, I will honor Martin Luther King today and beyond by continuing to treat people based on their character, how they treat me and treat others, and will only see their skin color as an added beauty of the infinite ways that make them a unique individual. This was a white man that tweeted that I should write. Or I should say, a 1967 poll showed MLK was one of the most hated men in America, which is, of course, what Dr. Draper was talking about earlier. This is in response to the NFL celebrating MLK. And so, again, let me say, a 1967 poll showed MLK was one of the most hated men in America. Those in the NFL praising him today would have vilified him then as they have done Kaepernick. And that tweet was retweeted and liked thousands of times. And finally, please shut up. You literally want to ban critical race theory, and you're pushing a bill to shield whites from their racist past. Don't say a single thing about MLK, please and thank you. And that was in reply to Kristen Cinema.
Boom. Black people versus MLK. The digital streets are talking. I got to thinking that they want to shut up and vilify anything that inspires, encourages, and uplifts and educates African Americans. President Flowers, what do you think about some of those comments on the digital streets?
Oh, I'm I'm not surprised by any of them. I mean, I think Dr. Draper kind of gave you, because you have this revisionist history that shows Dr. King as pristine and almost. I mean, I'll just say he probably gets more hits than Jesus. I'll say that, and because of that, you don't go back and look at what was happening when he was alive and he was vilified, he was attacked, he was all that. Same thing with Thurgood Marshall. Same thing with Adam Clayton Powell, who were the premier, you know, I guess, political images in that day. And a lot of people know I'm an alpha, and I had to learn the hard way that there was this hate relationship that was directed to Dr. King by Thurgood Marshall and by Adam Clayton Powell, because these brothers had done a lot of work, and they had to, in the case of Adam Clayton Powell, he had to work in the Congress for years to get on the right committee to deliver services to Black folks. Thurgood Marshall had to go into these towns and do these cases, and he had to get out of town as soon as he got there. So there was no afro to cover him while he was in the case, because he had to go in and out because he was afraid of his life. So when Dr. King came out, and he's using the media at that time to say, "Look, let's put the lights on this hatred," they didn't understand that. They couldn't see the future. And I guess they all didn't sit down like, "This is what I'm trying to do, brother." It was none of that. It was kind of that black male ego thing. But my point is, they all had this target on them, and when you're trying to do right, you're going to have it, because it's at the end of the day, it's about power. You're using tactics to acquire power, and when you take power away from this mainstream white establishment that believes in oppression, believes in this destroy you before you destroy me, maintain what I got and get more, you're going to have some problems. So it's no surprise. It's unfortunate that this criticism of any, it ain't just critical race theory. It's about any attempt to empower Black folks to be powerful. that the mainstream is afraid of. And they are afraid of it because if they were in a position of inferiority, if they get into a position of power, they're going to destroy who was trying to destroy them, who had handicapped them, and they can't get over it. It's a Viking sentiment that has been in their blood from the time they left. Forget about getting to Great Britain. From the time they left Scandinavia to get to Great Britain, it's called England now, and that spirit was there then. It was there when they left Europe to come here without anything except the hope to have land. And that spirit was on that capital on January 6th, and it ain't going to leave. So we have to remember who we are. And anything that we can do to empower our people, particularly young people, we should be about doing that. And the Afro is an example of that. I mean, just listening, y'all, you just reminded me that the Afro is older than the NAACP and everybody else. And I think y'all need to remind people of that, because this is bold, and this is the reality of how we got here. Without the Afro and the tentacles of pamphleting, we wouldn't be here. We would not be here. I know the NAACP wouldn't be here, but I think y'all, the only person older than y'all in Baltimore is Bethel Church and St. Francis Academy.
Welcome to the box. If you jumped in late, this is Black People versus MLK. We on the box all day, because once you get us started and you get us stirred up and you get somebody who has some kind of fire and passion and just any kind of inspiration to move our people forward, we're going to get inspired. If that doesn't wake you up, if that doesn't get your blood stirred, if you can get off of your selfish box for just 1 second and forget about all of the things and the stuff and get into humanizing some of these things. The thing about it is they think if we all had the guns that we would shoot them dead. The black community has a lot of love. We wouldn't shoot you dead. That's not our we really don't want to. That's not our real move. Our move is for equality, is to be able to have the same access and opportunities, to get paid for what we value, to not have our ideas stolen all the time, to not be used, pimped. It's okay for us to be on the field, like you said. I bring up the NFL, making them millions of dollars, but we can't be in the owner's box. We can't be in the GM. We can barely be a coach. We're gonna get fired for some other reason. It's their game. We're the chess pieces, and they're moving us around the way they want to move us around with a check. And if they cut the check, which they will cut the check if you don't conform and comply to the rules that they've set up through the old boy network for years, that we try to break. I was looking up the other day to see how many HBCU players currently were in the NFL. 18. I really didn't know any of their names, but
it's only 18.
Only 18 currently playing right now. And they kept showing me lists of the old ones like Doug Williams and Jerry Rice and those guys. But to say that I'm trying to wrap it up because we're running out of time. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Maxwell. Thank you, Angela and Jewel and Byron and everybody who is tuning in. Share this. We have to teach our future, and sometimes we have to reteach ourselves to get involved. Are you involved? I heard you say you were alpha. My great grandfather was an alpha, Carl Murphy. I don't know if you knew that. One of the, the key, he took the Afro from here to there in his transformation. But you have to get involved in something beyond what your little thing, what you got going on in your little circle. Get outside of your circle and do something for the greater good of our community. That's when you know your neighbor's name. Our guest last week said, when you know who Miss Shirley is, and when you know that somebody needs something, that you can, if you have it, help out instead of being so selfish and running your own neighborhood down. MLK versus Black people. Yep, we are technology savvy. Text Afro. You'll get some texts, not texts that just bother you all day and you start to become numb, like we have MLK Day in the NAACP. We numb people as a whole. We are numb. Listen, I'm going to tell you what happened 2 days ago, and everybody is going to say amen. I got 10 texts or calls about these free kits, these free testing kits.
Instantaneously.
Listen, we spread that news so fast. I mean, Wow. Now, if we could come together over some tests, we need
Well,
to come together on some other information that we can organize and send texts out and get the word out. We have the technology, we have the brilliance in our black leaders. Now we need where are my IT people out there? We need the
right.
black network that can get as fast as y'all got those tests out there. Because everybody's getting tested. You sneeze and you're getting tested. I think I got some. You done thought yourself all the way into something that you don't have, even though the doctor told you 5 times. But can we get this information out as fast as they get this Omicron COVID news out? We're gonna do it. I'm off the box. I'm not gonna say nothing all day. Final words, Misha Green. I'm sorry. I got on the box. I laid on the box. I think I put a couch on the box that time.
I love it. We've all been on the box today, and I mean, that I think if MLK were around, even in his 93rd year, he would have to hop on the box as well, don't you think? So I'm going to use my time on the box since I went on my long box earlier to share the Afro fact. So this week's Afro fact is inspired by the January 24th, 1970 edition. And the headline read, "Thousands, big and small, pay tribute to Dr. King." Now, remember, this is 2 years after his passing, and they were celebrating his birthday already. Not the official holiday, but this was a major celebration. The article read, on the 41st anniversary of King's birthday, several states officially observed Martin Luther King Day. Crowds gathered for memorial services, and schools let students loose for a holiday or held special programs. An overflow crowd of blacks and whites gathered for commemorative services at King's Old Church, the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, to inaugurate a planned Martin Luther King Memorial Center and dedicate the slain leader's new gravesite. King's widow, Coretta, and their 4 children were among the persons who heard Atlanta Mayor Sam Massell eulogize the longtime Southern Christian Leadership Conference leader as the conscience of the nation. And that's this week's Afro Fact.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Thank you. Afro fact. See, I mean, President Flowers told us that we are the oldest family-owned black business. I would say we're the oldest family-owned media company. You know what I mean? We're not just a newspaper anymore, even though we have a legacy edition because some people still like to feel touch the paper, but we have been a media company for that long. So thank you for everybody tuning in. And Dr. Draper, you're
I
on
have
the
so much
box.
to say on the box. First of all, let me say, if nobody's talking about you, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
If somebody's not vilifying you and talking about you and all of that, then check out what you're doing. Right? I know they're talking about you, Willie Flowers.
Don't tell
And I
me.
know they're talking about me. I'm not going to worry about it. Let me say something else too. Speaking of facts, I'm on the box about this. Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King, and others worked with black publishers behind the scenes.
Yeah.
People didn't always see that. Carl Murphy helped to start the NAACP in Baltimore, but they work behind the scenes. We have a recording that we just digitized with a conversation between Carl Murphy and Thurgood Marshall, where Thurgood Marshall says, hey, the boys of the press, that's what he called them, they want to know what's in this brief. They were talking about Brown versus Board. And he said, and I told them that I don't have any time to talk to them about that. He said, but for the Afro, I have it. I have it for you. They worked really together. And so I want to just challenge everybody who's watching this. We need to work together with the black press and NAACP. It doesn't always have to be, when it's time it gets on the front page, we should have already been doing some things behind the scenes. We should already know what's happening, Willie, with your branch in Howard County and other places so that we can really get to it, when it's time and have it done in a way that really is impactful and gets some action started. We have to be smarter about how we're doing it. We're not just a black newspaper. We're not just a black media company. We are a part of the black community, have been, will be, and going forward. And we are part of the black owned media. There's a difference between, I'm on the box, between Black-owned media and Black-targeted media. A lot of Black-targeted media is not Black-owned media, and Black-targeted media a lot of times has to ask people who do not look like them for permission to run what they want to run in their publications. Okay, I'm off the box, and I do want to add this. It has nothing to do necessarily with this conversation, but it does. Willie mentioned the alphas. We got four Greeks here. Kevin's Kappa. Misha is a newly minted AKA. Willie Flowers is an alpha. I am a delta. And I want to say this, that the sororities and fraternities have always had those platforms. But I just want to make this announcement. Some of you have already heard it. Our newly elected national president for Delta, Cheryl Hickman, passed this morning. And so I offer condolences to my sorors and, to the Greekdom world. And so we remember Cheryl Hickman. She was just elected in November.
Sorry to hear about that.
So yeah.
Oh wow, I'm so sorry. I hadn't heard, Dr. Draper. My condolences.
Rest in peace. Rest in heaven. And you said newly minted. I thought and Misha, you felt like an NFT for a second. You like newly minted AKA. That's what they doing now. They minted them. Okay. All right. Well, all right. All right. I just want to change the spirit because we can start thinking about funeral. Everybody that's been passing this past year. We can all get in on the sad note. I don't want to do it. Willie, you in the box. Your final words, my brother.
I'll just say this. One thing is I get caught up in the Montgomery thing because there's so many tentacles. But one thing I want to leave y'all with is that I think Mama Rosa Parks was arrested on a Thursday, and they had set up a meeting on I think Monday or Tuesday to get into it because they want to do it after church service to get the word out. And it was one flyer they sent out, and that flyer caused like 2,000 or 3,000 people to get into that planning meeting where they elected Dr. King, the chair of the Montgomery Improvement Association, and the rest is history. I bring that up because we were talking about how we get the message out. We got the structure. All you got to do is just put it out there, and we can turn this thing around. And this whole notion about a boycott is significant because when you hit anybody at this economic level, at their economic needs, they're going to capitulate. And you mentioned earlier about people quoting Dr. King, and they were doing a lot of Black Lives Matter stuff in 2020. It's all about that. When you see Apple talking about Black Lives Matter, when you see any of them, they don't want our people to pull out of there. And that's where our power rests. And I think we forget that because, we want to be nice to them because you can get a Mac or whatever. But if you say, I ain't buying a Mac, I ain't buying gas, I ain't buying something. I haven't bought, I can't even remember the name of the company. I haven't gotten gas from one place, Exxon, since Exxon Valdez. It's just, I forget why I boycotted them. But the point is, that's our power. That's our power first. And then if we start stacking up stocks in any of this, that gives you power too, that you can take home. And I think those are tactics that we have to apply.
Absolutely. Before we leave, Maxwell Aaron, if you're still there, has asked a question, and I didn't want to ignore the question. And maybe President Willie Flowers or Dr. Draper, are you guys pushing cash reparations for foundational Black Americans of the enslaved? Does anybody want to take on that question?
I'm always in favor of reparations. It's just a matter of how we do it. There is a bill to set up a it's by I'll just say, for full disclosure, my cousin is Delegate Marlon Ampray, and he has a bill to set up a commission, not just to study something that we can monetize, and that is the challenges created since this desegregation of schools and monetizing that. And those are opportunities that I'm not doing a good job. It might be good for him to come on here one time, to explain it details, but it's since 1954, I think, to really look at the disparities caused and then getting reparations for that.
Absolutely. Brother Maxwell, thank you for your question. And that might be something that we tackle on the box as a topic. This was Black People versus MLK. Of course, we went in a lot of different directions. I hope it woke you up to at least say, hey, let me take a moment and see what I can do in my own circle of influence that can impact the community. So when we're all doing something, we will become stronger. So until we meet again next Thursday, visit theafro.com, get a subscription for somebody else. It helps us with editors, with writers, with videographers, with everything that we need to keep sharing the information that we've been sharing for 130 years. Until we meet again.
So
be
Kevin,
nice.
before you go, please mark on your calendars, March 24th, we're having our Black Business Matters conference. And August the 13th, I'm putting that date out there now, we're celebrating 130 years. So we want you to join us in that celebration. And so March 24th, our Black Business Matters, that's virtual. We do a tea in April. We're hoping that's going to be in person. We'll let you know about that next time, and a tea in DC as well. And then our big celebration in August. The date is Saturday, August the 13th, which is the actual founding of the Afro. That's my announcement, Kevin.
Okay, well that's it. We're gonna end with that. That's all, folks. Like Russell Simmons said, thank you. Good night.
Good night.